I'm gonna hard code it for now. When we do that Ajax, this, this servlet needs to come back with a 404. So print, this might be a local reference here. So let's use it where we're actually doing the call. All right, so this is what we should be getting. So I wonder, let's see. I'm testing if it works when that's a string. Yeah, that works. So there's no need why it would break if that reference was a string or an integer. So let's try this. I'm gonna say here if code is defined. All right, let's try this. Let's see if it works. All right, in that case it worked. What if I pass in 404 here? All right, so this is what I want. So when the summoner is not found, I want this Ajax to come back with a status code of 404. Hey, what's up? I don't know where Nolan is. He might be busy,
hey,
but
sorry. What's going on?
I don't know. They're calling you in the chat. It looks like somebody had posted some code. So I'm not sure if this sells, but this code is from another one I got. The access response code differently. If this response code not equal to 200, debug print max strikes exhausted. I need to see what's the outer layer of that block of code you posted. What is this response? Is that similar to how I'm setting it? Maybe link the page. How about this? How about I push it out to GitHub and someone might get it before I do. We're all learning here, guys. And there's no shame in that. What's going on here? Let's see. So let me commit this. I'm such a bad speller sometimes. Alright, so that's committed. We're almost there though. I'm either misunderstanding how this class should be interfacing with the engine.php. It could be that at this point, the reference to this object gets destroyed. That's likely. So this might not be working. Or I'm trying to call object error. I wonder if I make the class static. What I should be making is engine.php static, and maybe from the Riot API class, trigger that variable. So we'll see. Let's keep working this out. Line 956. And I'm still, this is getting called when it should be getting set to true right here. And I'm getting an error as if this is still false. So something is not how we want it to be when it comes to PHP, or how I think it should work. Maybe I've been coding in Java for too long at work. So maybe this pretty way of doing things is not gonna work. So I think I'm gonna have to scratch out this design, which sucks. Let's see here, Little Smith. Oh, okay, let's check out this GitHub. Alright, this is getting somewhere. Yeah, no, this is really good, but it will take a little bit to interface that with our code. And their chain of command is a little more extensive. There's actually functions for building the correct requests. We have a shorthand of doing what this is doing. Obviously, this is built a lot more trustworthy, and that's what we're trying to get it to. I'd have to look at this file while I'm not streaming, so. But Little Smith, you do have the GitHub, the last commit. See if you can hook that up. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to scratch this design and get it working a less elegant way, even if this wasn't as elegant as we thought it'd be. Let's see. I'm on. Let me read this API documentation. I might not be using the response correctly. Because I know for sure the API should set the right headers when the summoner is not found. But it's almost like at this point of the code, it's still, even when this fails, it's still setting it as a 200 just now, at least. You know what? This will work. Yeah, that's fine. Well, let's do some more logging. Let's look at this error log. What's my URL looking like? Alright, so let me copy this. Alright, look at here. So it's almost like this actually worked. This is what I typed. So maybe this summoner does exist. What's going on is that, see, this guy also exists. I'm searching for people that exist. Now what's going on that when this comes back as working, and then I go down here and I try to get their league data, that's coming back with an error, I think. So let's see what happens if I use the league method, league 2.5, and let me take this ID here. We're onto something. Okay. So this person actually does have rank. We're on to something. Just a moment. Alright, this person worked. Let me try to find someone that actually does not work. Because even this one worked. So get summoner by summoner. Because I'm getting an ID back. But I'm getting this warning here for some reason. So there's another error at play here. Get by summoner. Oh, it's my... Oh my god, hold on. Region, this data region. I might be building the wrong... So in this case, what did I pass in? I passed the name. And then if I look at my response, file get content, filter open stream. And then here, this line is... Person probably never play rank, and that's why we're getting this error. Okay. So it's the issue right here. So we need to add error handling when there's no rank. Alright. We're getting there. So watch what's gonna happen. I should have also add the warning. I should have put it right here as well. That way our JSON response doesn't break because of this parameters up here. So we added that warning. Let's see what happens. We should probably just get an object with no... And then we look here. Cannot property, cannot read property 6, 7, 8 of no. So that's the case where... Or they have no league. Okay. Cool. Now let's look up somebody that I know is gonna break the site. Let's see if this one came back with a... So this one came back with 0. So this one should have broken the site. This one logged in the correct HTTP. Where do I call that? Log and write API. Error log URL, error log JSON code. So this is still good up to this point. So that looks good there. And then how does it look after I set it? The response code 404, so it's there. Now, so far so good, guys. Now when I go back here and I pass this, how does it look? So this is like the last block of code that gets executed after all the responses come back. And I want to make sure that the that error static variable is valid. Alright, sorry about that. Alright, so let's see what happens now. I want to look at that last log I added. And yep, it still has the right one, response code 404. So therefore this should work. HTTP response code. So what am I doing here? I'm saying that if this is not null, just in case we don't pass a valid code, I could at least just default it to 400, but let's try this again. Hey, by the way, let's see. Just thank you guys for sticking around for this long. Did not realize this was going to take pretty much the whole stream. So my apologies, but hey, we're all learning. It's important to know how to debug things. So let's see, where do we have summoner name? Alright, so here this return of 404. So again, the issue now is that when I know that this status code should be 404, it's still setting it as 200. And by the way, now that I think about it, this was wrong. This condition should have defaulted to 200, not 400. But either way, I wasn't getting the 400, so. Okay. Oh. Alright, so you see where I'm echoing this 0? This is what's happening when I return null. Because this if condition here is if it's true, but if this by the time I call function, by the call at the end of this sequence here, call user function, and in our case here we're calling get summoner. Down here, if we did get an error flag, we return null. So therefore this, where is it? This right here where I set the response code, this never happened. This block of code never happened. So yeah, not good. And now this is what I'm gonna do. So what I do is this, I can just call sprint. And return 0. And then pass this reference so that it sets the right response code. Not what I wanted to do there. Alright, so this should work. And I'm going to be so happy. Now we don't need this anymore. Alright. Red. That was frustrating. It's all my fault. I should understand how my code's working. And let's cue the music to feel good about that. Alright guys, so now we're going to put it all together. Why did we want to send back the right error code? It's because Angular is so beautiful enough that it's going to detect when the error, the status code is something other than 400, which is when it's good. And this is going to make our lives so much easier when we're doing the front end error handling. And you're going to see that right now. So here in this Ajax, this then statement shouldn't actually, it shouldn't be then. It should be on success. So this Angular is going to see, it's going to first check the response status. If it's 404, it's going to run this block of code. So now that our server is returning an error code that doesn't work, for me to do some error handling for that scenario, all I have to do, and I can look up the Angular reference here, just so you guys can see. We made it, guys. We made it through that horrible hump. So watch this. If you read the documentation, I'm pretty sure they have a success and a error. Pretty sure it's not just done. That's like, or the success might be done. I might be thinking of some other language. Alright, this is, by the way, the shorthand for post we're using, so let's be careful with it. Alright, let's check if what I changed right now, I changed then to success. Let's see if that works. And let me actually commit this. First let me make sure this works. Alright, so that didn't work. And then when I call Sal, alright, so then that should be done. You know what? The success is when you use the long HTTP reference. So there was another way I could have built this Ajax, just using HTTP and not HTTP.post. I'll explain that in a second. Alright, HTTP post. This is what I wanted originally. Okay. So then we need then, this is when it works, then. And now we need to add the when there's an error. Might be the .error reference. .error is not part. So this is because we're using the shorthand, as I guessed. So we might have to switch to the longhand version of the HTTP. Oh, no, I'm just doing it wrong. So this is how it should be. Nope. Alright, so .then, when it's good. And as soon as I get this working, I'll push it out to GitHub. Alright, when it's good, I'm just making this code look more questionable now. And this is when it fails. Awesome. I just need to fix this here. I'm refactoring code. Bear with me, I'll push this soon. Thank you guys for sticking around this long. Today was not that awesome because we run into a lot of issues, but we gained some valuable experience for our PHP careers. Alright, so let's see what happened. I'm pretty sure Angular broke right here. Missing parentheses. Of course. I broke my Angular for each. Alright. So now that works. So if I do sal, it works, it goes through. If I go back, see, now it detected that something went wrong. So that's that. So this is how we want to work. We want our Angular to get the right status code from the server, and we were finally able to set that up correctly after nearly 2 hours of questionable coding. Alright, so let's commit that. And by the way, we're gonna move this out of here. We don't want to show that this summoner is not found on this page. We actually want to call that before we get there, which we'll do next. So let's first commit. Cool. Alright, again, thanks guys for sticking around this long. Today we went from bronze 2 PHP level to about silver 2 maybe. Or at least in PHP in regards to response codes. Well, most of it was syntax failure. Thanks for linking that, Little Smith. Yeah, most of it was me not using my own class correctly. So my apologies, guys. Maybe I wasn't at my best today. Other than that, like I said, I'm gonna give you a little time to pull from GitHub if you want. But the next thing we want to do is, we don't want to check if that summoner exists in this controller. We want to do it from home, which is where we actually do the search. That way we keep, if there's no summoner, we keep the person on that same page. We keep them on home. That way they can just retype somebody. So I got a good idea of how to do this. Sorta. Let me think about it. It's gonna make our Angular code a little more complicated. And we're gonna see why. And we're also gonna have to refactor the back end code a little more too. So that's cool. More spiral development on the way if you guys haven't had enough. Alright, so by now you guys probably downloaded the last commit. Alright, so as I said, let's repeat myself. What do we want to do? When someone types in the wrong name from here, we want to keep on this page and maybe this display down here, hey, this summoner does not exist. Get your crap together and try again. Something like that. Maybe we'll have it say, cool, like Lee Sin. And then summoner not found. It'd be cool if we can like get a Lee Sin sound bit and play it as soon as they hit enter. So it goes, hey, cool. I'm probably not doing a good job of sounding like Lee Sin. But here we go. Here we go. Alright, so why did I say we have to refactor the backend? Because now I don't want to make this private. From the home, I want to call this first. I want to call get summoner, which is where you pass in a name and you're supposed to get back an ID. Okay. So then here, here it doesn't make sense for me to do this anymore because I'm not gonna use it the same way. Instead, it's gonna get a little messy. So here we go. All right, so comment this out. Let's see. I'm gonna need a region. Let me see. I'm gonna need region and an ID. So I'm still gonna have to pass in region. Alright, so this no longer works. Alright guys, so we're refactoring code, rearranging things because we're doing that crazy spiral development. Alright, so let me make sure this is not gonna break. That means that we're gonna have to add some error handling. So this is where I said we should have maybe made a function that does this for me right here. That was not that many lines of code. I'm going to copy this, put it right after we do the file get content. okay. We know that this is not going to be false or anything other than false when you load this up. So then here we're going to do similar to the setup we have up there. Again, guys, this could be more elegant, but we're just going to code something to get rolling. So I'm going to have this condition. You know what? Darn it. No. Let's keep it this way, guys, and I'm gonna show you why. But I'm just gonna write a new method. You're probably laughing at this point, but I'm gonna show you why later. Let's just quickly code a way to make sure that the summoner is valid. Alright. So this function, all we're going to do is actually use get summoner. And then yeah, you're already seeing that we're gonna waste 2 API calls because we're gonna run this twice, but we're eventually, maybe on our next stream, I'll show you how to just make the call once. There's a lot of techniques we can use. We can store a server session as soon as this summoner variable comes back with an actual object that we can use again later. We can store it as a session variable, sorta, maybe, or we could just implement a database next stream. You'll see what I'm gonna get. All right, so now we got this. Get exists. That name is a little questionable still. Maybe I'll figure out something better in the future. Alright, so now on my home controller, I want to add an Ajax call from right here. So let's do that. Alright, so I built my HTTP Ajax call, shorthand, let's use post. So this is going to be when it's good. And bad. Alright, so let's see if that worked. Alright, that worked, but we broke something else. Alright, summoner line 21. Function cannot read property of the undefined of Angular. So we just got a bad response from the server. Let's see what that was. Undefined variable HTTP reference, and so we ruined something when I added that last function on Riot API. So let's see, line, it's just a notice, so and then we get a warning. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Right, so let's look here. We do get summoner. Are we passing in the right? Oh, what's going on, guys? Alright, so let's see what our first response was. Our first Ajax, where we do get exist, it's coming back with a 0, which is not what it should come back with. It should come back with a ID and whatnot. So at this point, it's saying that I'm not found, and I can see that the URL is not behaving right. There's undefined. So let's look at home. Let's break this down. Alright, so then this. Here I'm passing this, though I didn't even have to do this no more because I don't have those variables defined. I'm actually just pulling those from right here now. So here, region and name, that's right. And then summoner. Oh, I don't think I ever returned this. I think I had that at the beginning, but I forgot to. Alright, now it should work. Alright, so I typed in Sal with a /, so that came back with a 404. This is what we want. Now I type in Sal. It takes me to the next page, but now we gotta fix this issue. So, okay. And I type in Sal. This comes back valid. Oh, okay, I know what's going on. So here in home, where I'm trying to route them forward, this responds. I'm using the wrong reference here. So this I'll just rename this, or just take it off for now. To make sure that I access this outer variable outside of this local scope, I need to make sure I don't rename it in here. So my fault. So now that I have data, it should route correctly. So that worked. So exist because that's me. Now if I type in some crap, now let's type in something I know doesn't exist. Perfect. We don't go nowhere. The server came back with a 404, and then that means that in this part of the Ajax, which just means that that the server responded with a bad error code. And here we can let the user know that they made a mistake or that username doesn't exist. So let's do that. We're gonna use scope to bind to the template. So let's see here, where's home.html. This is where the person types in the name of who we're searching for. So we can put an error right underneath. Alright, so I'm going to bind this to the front end or the template, HTML template, by just using scope. And then when this hits, I'm going to display the following message. There we go. Lisa just kicked me in the face and said equal. So that means that the server or the summoner was not found. And we can actually center this to make it look better. Alright, so that doesn't work. That's fine. We're just gonna be lazy here. You know what? There we go. So let me commit this. So guys, we did what we wanted to achieve today, which is just error handling when we type a name that's not in existence. That way we don't load the page and get nothing. If the name does exist, Angular routes it to this controller, and everything's gonna work from there on. So let me commit this. Hey Mike Pro, you missed like 2 hours of chaos, so you're fine. It was complete chaos for 2 hours. But thanks for joining the stream again, Mike Pro. It's good to see you again. Yeah, so that's pushed. You guys can go ahead, download it. We pretty much made it to where we wanted to get. Thanks for believing in me the last 2 hours. It was not easy. So PHP I used to code when I was an intern for a company when I was still in college. After I graduated, the company I'm at now, we code in Java, so that's gonna be my excuse. I haven't been doing PHP as much as I should be. So Mike, we spent 2 hours figuring out why certain things weren't working the way I thought they would work. We ran into issues I created myself. I wasn't putting things where they should have been. That led to more confusion. But yeah, now we're good. We're good. And yeah, you guys got to see some debugging. It's always important to keep cool when things don't work the way you want it to. You don't want to scare your coworkers, flipping your battle station over and dropping F-bombs. There's always a reason why things don't work. It's just a matter of being calm, double checking your steps, and then you'll eventually find the issue. So yeah, guys, you can pull from the GitHub repository. We'll do a couple more things before we call it a night. There's one more API call I want to hook up. Guys, what will be next? Now that we did this, I have mentioned that it's not a deal because we're wasting 2 API calls. For no reason, so let's do that next. Let me show you how to not make get summoner twice. I'm gonna show you. So here, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some Angular because after today I kind of gave up on PHP. So let's do this in Angular. Let's implement something that's gonna cache our first Ajax to get summoner. We wanna store that so that when we hit the next page, when we're in home controller, we type in the person we're looking for. The first Ajax is responding with the get summoner by name response, that object, which just contains the profile icon and the ID, which the ID we need that ID to make all the other API calls. But then, so when we're in home and we type in Sal, again, I'm just repeating myself. We make one call to make sure that this person exists, and then we make that call again. And we're not optimizing, or we're wasting one API call on something that we already got, if that makes sense. So how can we recycle what I got from my first Ajax? How can I reuse this and not keeps things simple? Ultimately, the best solution is to use a database, which we'll implement soon. Well, not soon, way down the road, I guess. And it's gonna be pretty simple. We'll just add like a method somewhere in here, where we first check our database if that ID exists or if this summoner exists. If it doesn't, spend an API token. But if we do spend that token, we make sure to store the results in our database. So next time we search for that particular summoner, we can rely on our database. And then from there, once someone loads up that person's profile, it'll be like all the other League of Legends sites. It seems like they all implemented a refresh button on the top of the profile, or it just lets a person know like, hey, it's been this long since this profile was updated. Would you like to update it? And I imagine that in the backend somewhere it just does an API call and stores it in the database for next time this page loads. So we'll do that soon, later on. For now though, I was saying that we need to reuse this object we're getting from the home.js. So we're actually gonna have to do some Angular and PHP. Yeah, we need some caching. Oh, here we go. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rename this to get profile. Let me think about this. Just leave it get leak. You know what, man? This should be a profile, because this profile page is gonna have a lot of extra data that we're gonna use, not just the league API call. Yeah, so you guys are following. Here, now let's get profile. Let me make sure I update that on here. File, that's good now. Let's make sure I didn't break any dependencies. Alright, that's still working. Alright, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna introduce how to make our own Angular services. So if you guys remember our first two streams, I went over how each one of these services I'm spelling here, they give that controller some sort of functionality. The scope just lets you bind things to the HTML. Interval just does an interval that repeats some sort of function so often. HTTP is just to make AJAX. Timeout, it's kind of like a timeout. After a certain time, something blows up. Location is just to do cool things with the URL. Again, this is just providing this controller with some functionality, and the idea is that Angular is entirely modular. So if I want to have more functionality, I just add more modules, more services. Modules equal services in this language. So how do I make my own service? How do I come up with something that I can use to add functionality or to link some sort of object between two controllers? Because right now, as you can see, I have scope. This scope is literally only available to this controller. It's only part of this wider scope, if that makes any sense. Like, I can't go into Summoner. I can't go into Summoner.js and try to link, for example, scope selector region. This, I can't link it to here because it's not even defined here. It's not part of this controller. So it's almost like we need if there was some sort of data we wanted to utilize in more than one controller, we need to make a bridge to do that. Correct? Hey, TSM Insanity. Yeah, so TSM Insanity, Little Smith just answered the changes. We just added some error handling. And TSM, you missed. I gave you a shout out. I showed you that screenshot you sent me with the changes you made to the CSS, and everyone thought it looked really good. So kudos for you, my friend. So yeah, guys, like I was saying, the scope service is just relevant to the controller it's part of. Each controller has its own scope. So therefore, if I want to recycle this response when it's valid, where I'm getting the summoner ID and the summoner icon, if I wanted to recycle this and just send this to the summoner controllers so that I don't have to make the same call here where I'm wasting 2 API calls, I can reuse that object. I just gotta learn how to get it across from this controller to the other one. So this is what we're gonna do. So utility.php, this is gonna be like a global file that we can put in, say if there's some PHP function that does something in particular, whether it's parsing some response or modifying an object, and we know that we're gonna use it in possibly other places in the future, we'll put that function right here. And then if we want to reference it or use it in a class, we just include it in the top. So in Riot API, I had to include it because I'm using parse headers. All right, so let's make an Angular service, guys. So where do I want to define this Angular service? I can define it on home.js. So to define a service is pretty much identical to the controller, almost the same syntax as to what you're typing in the middle here in the parameter. We just define what services we want to use. You can't use the scope service. I mean, yeah, the scope service in a service though. So, but actually for this service, for summoner service, we won't need, at this time we don't need to reference any Angular services. We might in the future, but we'll just keep that empty for now. Alright, so we got summoner service, and I'll be right back, guys. Alright, so we just defined our service here. What is the service going to hold? It's going to hold an object. So I'm going to use the this reference. The service is actually an object within itself. So by using this, I can append a key to the service object. If that makes sense. I hope I worded that correctly. I think I did. So I'm going to say this summoner. I'm going to initiate it as an empty object. So now this is what I'm going to do. Now I made this service. I'm going to include it in home, just like I would include an Angular service, only that it doesn't have the $sign. The $sign in front of the services, that means it's an Angular service module. Like it's a default. It's part of the Angular code. So technically, I could add a $sign in front of this, but it's not recommended because you want to keep what's Angular and what's yours separate. So all I gotta do is just refer to it as summoner servlet or summoner server service. That should not be service. That should not be server, rather. That should be service. Alright, so that's that. I have to include it at the end of this. I told you guys why we're using this long way of defining Angular code. There's two ways I could have defined services and controllers and everything. For example, I could have done this shorthand version of it. And the difference here is that I don't have this array here, where I'm pretty much duplicating whatever service I pass in. I don't have to do that if I use this method here. All I have to do is just define the service once and it will work. The issue with this way of defining controllers is that they don't get, if you wanted to minify your code, it's not going to work. So, yeah. That's why we use the long way. If you don't understand what I just said, it's fine. It's not really that important, but so yeah, here I included the service I just defined, so now that's part of the controller, so now I can access this object up here, this service I defined. So this is what I'm going to do. So here in home.js, or I make that initial call to get back to check whether the summoner exists. Well, if you remember, I'm just calling the getExist function, and if I look at the Riot API class, that exist function is just calling getSummoner, the getSummoner function. So this is going to return back the object containing the ID, the name, the profile icon. I can recycle that same object. So down here where I get that object back, I'm going to call the summoner service, and I'm going to set the summoner object to this response here. Alright. So now this service contains a key summoner that's now populated with data I can use from any controller, as long as I include this controller or I want to use it. So if I go to summoner.js, hey, thanks Little Smith for sticking around, dude. I think I've talked too much today. So yeah, have a good night. So yes, so now we want to use that service in summoner.js controller. So in here, I'm going to add that service to the controller definition. There we go. That means I also have to add it at the end because we want to maybe minify our code. We're doing this long way of defining controllers and services. Little extra work, but it'll work out if we do want to minify later. Alright, so now I have this service and the controller. So now down here, when I make this AJAX call, this is what I can do now. I can pass that object to the backend. Do I want to do that now? Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass it. So now I'm no longer just gonna pass route params, because I'm gonna append a new key to that object, and I don't wanna mess with the route params object. So I'm going to define a new object that I'm going to pass with the Ajax call. And first, we need that object was already passing region and name, so let's make sure we have that included as well in this new object we're making. And now what I want to do is also add the summoner object we got in the service. But there's going to be a trick here. That object's still in JSON format, so I need to stringify that. So let me explain to you what I'm going to do. I'm not sure if Angular automatically stringifies that for me. Let me think about this. You know what? I probably don't have to do this. Ignore what I just said. Here I'm just gonna add a summoner service, and then I'm gonna call the summoner object. I misspelled that. Alright, so down here I'm going to pass in Ajax data. Alright, so before we do that, let's do a console log of how this looks. Let's go in here. Provider, unknown provider, summoner service. So did I misspell it? It might not be referencing it because I added it to home.js. I think it needs to be in app.js. So that's not the way I thought it worked. Let's add this to app.js. Yeah, we'll do match history tomorrow. Alright, so let's see what's going on. So I try to reference this service, but it's not working. What's this? Summoner service. If I go here now. Yep, that's spelled right. This is spelled right. Yeah, I know what's going on. Well, it's gonna be a circular reference though. Just a second, guys. I've been programming in the Ionic framework for too long. Because this would have worked with Ionic. but I'm pretty sure because I'm not including this module here, it's not working. Alright, did I mess up my naming? Unknown provider, summoner service. Alright, okay. That doesn't make sense though. This doesn't look right, but let me see something. Alright. Bear with me, guys. Yeah. So I don't know if this is something to do with the latest version of Angular, but the finding that service and app.js or in the main module should have allowed it to be accessible from pretty much any controller or any other module, especially here because I'm defining this part out. But right now it's coming back with an error because it's not finding the service. So I must be misunderstanding how this version of Angular works. So the Angular I use, which is Ionics, Angular. No, they still use Angular, but it might be like a couple versions behind the one I'm using right here. Either way, this is not. It's not finding it, so let's see if I can figure it out quickly. Alright, so we got summoner service here. And then on app.js, I define the service. Summoner service. Did I put this wrong? Yeah, that should have worked. Alright, let's take this out of here. Let's see what's going on. And then home.js, I mean summoner.js. Alright. bear with me here. So this is not being called, which might mean that it's not ever getting defined. Oh, there's the moment here. Alright guys, by the way, we're going to be ending the stream soon. Yeah, that does not get called either. Yeah guys, this only happens when you're streaming live. Alright, so let's try to reference that from here. Unknown provider. Yeah, it must be my syntax that I'm not doing right. Did they get rid of services in this version? No. Or at least did they change it is what I meant to say. Something. Okay. So let's try the the shorthand for defining Angular components. All right, so that worked. So I think this is gonna work now. Alright, but let's define that out here in app.js. Alright, our site's still working. So that was the issue. Apparently I can't use this. I'll have to double check later. Maybe I had some bad syntax, but anyway, we can go back to our original plan here. So I'm gonna uncomment some code. So this should work now. So again, when I'm on home, I just want to recycle the first response. I want to store it somewhere in JavaScript so that I can pull it back in my other controller. So that's why I'm using a service. A service is, in this case, I'm just going to use it as an object. So this is where we define it. We define it in app.js, which is our main centralized module. So here in home.js, which is where we get our initial response to check if this is valid. We're going to store that response in the service. That's what I'm doing right here. I'm saying the response summoner store in the service, and then I route the URL to the next page. And now that we're in here, I'm basically building up a new Ajax object that I'm going to send to the backend, where I'm going to append the object in that service. All right. Cool. So now I should be able to see this log. Alright, so that's the log I'm doing at this point of the code, line 17. It's I'm appending that object. In this case, this object is empty, and that's because I refreshed the page right here. So in this scenario where, say if you link somebody a link to your site and they just go ahead and open a browser window and just paste it, in this case we want to make both AJAX calls because the person was never on the initial page. So we're, in the backend, we're going to check for the case where this key of the object is pretty much just empty. When it's an empty object, we want to use both AJAX calls. But if you, as the visitor, started off from this page, you typed in cell, your first AJAX call here returns this object. This is what we're caching in the service. In this case, you want to recycle this object, so that's what we're going to send it to the backend. So then if we look at our second AJAX call, if we look at the data we're passing back, my magnifying glass. We have the region, the name cell, the region, and we also have a new inner object. This one right here. But this needs to be shorthanded. We want this part of the object. We don't want the outer level. So that's a quick fix. So here on home.js, this should be summoner data. So now this time around, we just passed the summoner object. It's just the object we got from the initial page. So we're going to recycle that, and this is how we're going to do that. So now in the back end for the under Riot API call. So now we got this function we renamed. It used to be get league, but now it's get profile. In this function, we're going to check if we should recycle that summoner object, which in this case right now, this is where we want to do that if condition. This is what we don't want to do if we already have the object. We don't want to call get summoner because we call that already on the home page. I keep repeating the same thing just in case there's someone out there that's not catching it. But here I want to check the if condition to see if I'm trying to recycle an object that got passed from the AJAX call. So how do I do that? We can just add a if condition here, a shorthand if condition. Let's see if this works. This might throw a PHP error the first time around, but bear with me. So let's do the shorthand for if and else. Guys, I'm gonna turn off the cam for just a little bit. Alright, I'm back. Alright, so yeah, let me show you how the shorthand for if else condition works. So let's say we wanted to define a variable. So right here we got this variable, and we want to do, before we set it, we want to check for a certain condition. So in the parentheses, that's the condition I'm going to check for. So what I'm going to look for is that summoner part of the object. I'm going to say if this data summoner, and I should figure out a way to know if it's good or not. Well, this summoner object is going to have an ID, so that's one way to do it. So if it has an ID, then we know that we don't have to waste an API token. We can just recycle this object right here. So then we'll just set this equal to this. Otherwise, we're gonna get it through this method. We're gonna call this method again. And then this summoner is now gonna just get set equal to whatever this returns when this condition is false. So again, I think this might throw a PHP error because and I know for sure in JavaScript this works where you're trying to reference a key in an object that's not really defined yet. This would throw false. So let's give it a try. Let me get rid of some windows here. Alright, let's try it. Alright, let's try this. So I type in Sal. It looks like the server is... Alright, so see, it threw an undefined property ID. So that didn't work. So let's find out why. It's just a notice too, so I bet if I put the I hope that will work. Alright, there we go. How do I know that I recycled it though? I'm pretty sure it worked. There's only one way to know for sure if the data, if this object was recycled. Well, here's one way we can test our case out. Let me think about this. Let's just break the back end. Let's just set this set to false when this is not defined. That means that the rest of this should break, and we'll know for sure. So in the scenario where, let's see, in the scenario where you send your friend a link just like this, summoner/nas.sal, that means they were never on home.js. They're gonna have to make both API calls. And that should have broken because I set it equal to false here. But say if they're coming from the home page or the landing page, this scenario should work. Or maybe not. Creating the file object. Alright, so yeah, I did not like that I set that to false. So maybe that was not a clear way to make sure this was working. Hold on. Let's just do, oh, okay. So we're already making logs to the PHP file or the PHP error file, so that's another way to check if it worked. I'm just gonna look at the log. How do you get to your logs? You open up XAMPP, go to the logs, and then go to PHP error log. Save this, delete everything and save this file because I want it to be clear, just to avoid confusions. And then, alright, so when you send your friend a link with just the profile, it should make both Ajax calls. So first, let's try it when they're coming from home. Because I know in this scenario, when they're coming from home, I should only see these error logs just once. Let's see. Alright, no, it didn't work. So this is definitely the condition here, PHP. This might not be working as I hoped it would. That's fine. Let me see. Let me think about this. So yeah, I made the same call here twice, which is that's what we don't want to do. So maybe there's a PHP function maybe I should call it set. This set just returns whether a variable has been set or not. But does it work when you're trying to reference an object or a key in an object? To try. All right. Let's still call it twice. Let's refresh this page just to see what happens in the log. In this case, they only call it once. I think I have our logic backward here. Let me think. I might have this condition backward. No, I don't. So this is going to return true if this is set here. Data summoner ID, which is pretty sure part of the key. Let's see here. This is what we're passing back. This is the object. So here that's false. And here it's set. So this is the case where I should have recycled it. Guys, we're going to be wrapping it up in about 10 minutes as soon as we fix this out. Maybe not even 10 minutes. But I think it's a good place to stop as soon as we get this working. Alright, let's Alright, so that's the first. Pretty sure this is where it's false. Which is not working right. It's just not, it's not doing what I think it should be doing. So let's see. Does property exist? So it seems like there's a built-in PHP function for this. So that gives us some hope. Well, that only looks on a class. I want to do this for an object, so this is probably not a good function to use. Unless you can use it with a zero mix class. Alright, so it's either an object or a class. Wait, or an object of the class to test. Never used this, but let's give it a try, guys. If this doesn't work, I'm calling it a night because it's a little late. Alright, so let's see. Alright, so here we called it once. That's when I just loaded up this link, not when I'm coming from home. Not when I'm coming from home. And I don't think this worked but maybe, yeah, it's still calling it twice. So I'm still calling get summoner by name twice. This is not what we want to do. So PHP is just being not JavaScript like, which is what I'm trying to think of, or the way I'm trying to think of doing this here. In JavaScript, and I can actually illustrate what we want to do in JavaScript. After I explain this, it's time to go or end the stream. So we'll just pick it up here tomorrow. So alright, so let's say in JavaScript you have an object. And let's make this object look just like what we're passing to the backend. Oh, and you know what? Hold on here.
Tino Heat 313 entered chat.
Hey, Sal.
Hey, what's up? I'm streaming right now. Hey, just give me a second, Pagan. Let me end.
Tino Heat 313 moved to League of Legends.
Oh, he left. Alright, guys, this is what I'm trying to do, and I'm going to explain it in JavaScript, and then we'll call it a day. So I'm passing this object to the PHP side, and it looks like this. I have a region, I have a name, and then I also have a summoner inner object here. And this object should contain a key. Correct? So in the case where we're coming from the landing page from home, we're passing an object that looks like this. In the case where we're just linking the profile page, this is going to be empty. And that should throw the condition should be trigger if this was if it behaves similar to JavaScript, which I'm going to show you. So in the case where this summoner object does not contain the key ID, in this case, this is what it should be doing. Alright, so I just defined this object. And then in the back end, I'm doing something like this. If the object, no, not data. If object summoner has ID, so if this object, the key summoner, if that summoner inner object has the key ID, do something. Otherwise, do something else. So in this case, I'm just printing true or false. Which in this case, it's coming back as false. Okay, the summoner should be equal to false. There we go. So because we didn't find this ID, it got set to false. And where if I had defined the object to have an ID, the following line of code will be true. So this in PHP does not work the same way as we just discovered, which is unfortunate. So what we'll pick up tomorrow, we'll pick up right here, and we'll figure out a way to check in PHP when this summoner object does not contain this key. Once we're able to do that, we'll be able to recycle the object we got from the landing page. Without this, we'll be wasting one API token. And again, in the future, we'll be using a database, and that's going to require some more changing, but that's a long ways down the road. So for now, we're making slow progress, but this is again a educational stream.
Tino Heat 313, I miss you, Sal. I miss your touch.
This guy is trying to be funny. So yeah, guys, we'll pick it up tomorrow here. Again, today's stream was a little frustrating and slow because of the beginning. If you missed the beginning of the stream, we were setting up a error handling for when we search for a summoner that didn't exist. So that took up quite a bit because I was also doing this for the first time in PHP. So it was a trial and error process, and in the end we were able to do what we wanted. So we got past that hump, and now we are just recycling. We refactored some code, we rearranged the class, we changed some names around. This used to be get league, now we're just going to call it get profile, which was, this is going to get called as soon as you land on this profile page, which is the summoner region name URL. Yes, this will be at YouTube, and on YouTube, I hope you don't watch those. I hope you don't watch through those 2 hours of hit and miss coding there, but I guess I do recommend it just so you can see how I worked through that hump. This will be on YouTube, and on the YouTube link I will definitely have time links in the description so that you can just fast forward to the key points. But as far as overall high level functionality to the site, all we did was just error checking when a summoner exists or not. So here I type in Sal, that worked. When we type in a name that we know it does not exist yet, such as this, we get this Iku Leeson a message. It's that sound you get Leeson makes when he just 100 to 0 you with his combo, which is one of the most funnest combos to do in the game. where you kind of just press R and then you queue for the finish. But yeah, when the way I just put it, it sounds like we didn't do a lot, but in the low level details, we had to rearrange a couple things, and during that process, we run into a lot of, or I ran into a lot of mistakes that I made. So long stream, but we didn't get too far ahead. So again, tomorrow we'll pick it up from here. On Twitter, I will post I'll post when the YouTube video gets uploaded. That being said, tomorrow we'll be streaming again at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll take a day off on Wednesday, and we'll get back to it on Thursday. So I think for now our schedule is Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. We'll stick to that for now. I'm gonna commit this, and let's see here. Okay, the service worked, so I'm gonna say that I added a service. All right. So that's being committed. The GitHub repository is below. PHP tutorials that can be helpful. Not right off the bat, but if I have you on Twitter, how about tomorrow before I start streaming, I'll have on me. I'll find a website you can check out just to get a feel for PHP. But one of the things you'll notice from PHP, right, as soon as you start, is that you don't really define types. So here I defined this variable, but I didn't define whether it was an integer or a string. It's kind of just a variable that can be anything. It's very much like JavaScript in that sense. Same with functions. You don't really have to specify what you're gonna return or what you're gonna expect X to return, whether it's an integer or a string or a Boolean flag.